Imagine standing in front of a vending machine. You insert your money, press a button, and out comes your snack. But what if that machine were programmed to only dispense treats when you inserted the exact amount of coins specified by its internal rules? This is not just a quirky vending machine, it's a metaphor for how smart contracts operate. A smart contract is like that vending machine, executing transactions automatically when certain predefined conditions are met. The rules are set in stone, encoded directly into the blockchain, immutable and transparent. This transparency fosters trust, as everyone can see the same rules and outcomes, just like everyone can see the vending machine's operating instructions. But what happens if the world outside doesn't align with those rules? If you try to insert a dollar bill instead of coins, the machine remains unyielding, refusing to budge. In the same way, smart contracts rely heavily on data from the blockchain, which can be a limitation when they encounter the unpredictability of real-life situations. Suppose you have a smart contract designed to release funds for a project once a certain milestone is achieved. If the milestone is dependent on external conditions, like weather for construction, this rigidity can lead to complications. A strange consequence is that while smart contracts can automate processes and eliminate the need for intermediaries, they lack the ability to adapt to changing circumstances without additional layers of complexity. As we delve deeper into this thought experiment, we begin to wonder, how can we ensure that these digital agreements can accurately reflect and respond to the complexities of the real world? The answer may lie in exploring how we might bridge the gap between the strict logic of smart contracts and the fluid nature of the world outside, especially through innovative solutions like decentralized autonomous organizations or DAOs. These entities have the potential to gather and verify data from diverse sources, acting as a bridge to connect the rigidity of blockchain protocols with the dynamic flow of real-world information. So as we ponder the capabilities and limitations of smart contracts, let's keep in mind that the key to unlocking their full potential may not just reside within the blockchain itself, but in the creative ways we can integrate external inputs into these digital agreements. Imagine a farmer who has taken out a weather-dependent insurance policy to protect against crop loss due to drought. The terms of this smart contract are straightforward. If the rainfall drops below a certain threshold during the growing season, the contract automatically triggers a payout to the farmer. But what happens when the smart contract needs to know whether that threshold has been met? The strange consequence is that it finds itself in a bind, unable to access the very information it requires to execute its function. This scenario highlights a critical challenge. Smart contracts rely on data inputs, yet the real world is filled with complexities and uncertainties that aren't neatly packaged within the blockchain. The absence of reliable data sources poses significant hurdles for these automated agreements. Unlike the digital realm, where information can often be verified and recorded without ambiguity, the real world is dynamic and unpredictable. Consider the farmer again. A sudden localized storm might bring unexpected rain, but if the smart contract can't tap into reliable weather data, it remains unaware and inactive. This gap between the rigid logic of smart contracts and the fluidity of real-world events is where the friction lies. Now suppose we introduce a solution: oracles. Oracles are intermediaries that provide external data to smart contracts, acting as a bridge between the blockchain and the outside world. However, the effectiveness of oracles hinges on their reliability. If the oracle provides inaccurate weather data, the smart contract could either fail to pay out when it should, or erroneously release funds when conditions haven't warranted it. This leads us to wonder, how can we ensure that the information feeding into these contracts is trustworthy? Imagine a world where a decentralized autonomous organization, or DAO, takes on this challenge. A DAO could consist of numerous participants who collectively verify weather data from various sources, ensuring that the information is accurate before it reaches the smart contract. This community-driven approach adds a layer of accountability and transparency, but it also raises new questions. What happens if the DAO makes a decision that turns out to be wrong? Who bears the responsibility when real-world consequences collide with digital contracts? The implications of integrating accurate real-world data into smart contracts extend beyond insurance. Picture a situation where a smart contract governs a supply chain, automatically adjusting payments based on delivery conditions. If the data is flawed or manipulated, it could disrupt the entire system, leading to cascading failures. The stakes are high, and as we navigate this landscape, we must ponder the trade-offs involved. While the promise of smart contracts lies in their potential for automation and efficiency, the reality is that they are tethered to the quality of the data they receive. The question remains, how do we bridge the gap between the deterministic nature of blockchain and the unpredictable flow of real-world events? In this thought experiment, the exploration of these challenges reveals not only the limitations of current technologies, but also the innovative pathways that could lead to more resilient integrations. As we continue this journey, let us keep asking how we can create a system where smart contracts can thrive amidst the chaos of the real world, ensuring that they are not just digital artifacts, but vital tools for managing our complex realities. Imagine a community of passionate environmentalists gathered in a sunlit park, brainstorming ways to improve local sustainability. They're not just sharing ideas, they're also thinking about how to ensure that their initiatives are grounded in accurate, trustworthy data. What if these individuals could leverage the power of a decentralized autonomous organization, a DAO, to validate the environmental data they need for their projects? How could this community-driven approach transform their efforts and enhance the reliability of their smart contracts? In this scenario, the DAO acts as a collective decision-making body, where diverse participants contribute their knowledge and expertise. Members could submit data on local air quality, water levels, or even biodiversity counts, each claim verified through a consensus mechanism. This decentralized verification process stands in stark contrast to traditional methods, which often rely on a single, potentially biased source. The strange consequence is that by harnessing the collective intelligence of its members, the DAO not only democratizes data sourcing, but also creates a more resilient system of verification. Now, suppose one member reports that a nearby river's pollution levels have exceeded safe thresholds. Instead of relying solely on government reports, the DAO could activate a series of checks. Other members might submit their own data, perhaps using sensors they've installed in the area. The community votes on the validity of the findings, and if a consensus is reached, the DAO can trigger a smart contract. This contract could automatically allocate funds for a local cleanup initiative, ensuring that resources are deployed swiftly and effectively. The beauty of this approach lies in its adaptability. As conditions change, so do the data inputs. The DAO can continually refine its processes, integrating new sources of information, whether it's from citizen reports or scientific studies. But this raises an important question. What happens to accountability in such a decentralized framework? If the DAO makes decisions based on flawed data, who bears the responsibility? This tension between collective action and individual accountability is crucial to consider. As we explore these dynamics, let's think about the implications for other areas, such as healthcare or disaster response. Could a similar model empower communities to address issues that directly impact their lives? The possibilities are vast, but they come with trade-offs. While a DAO can enhance data reliability through collective verification, it may also introduce complexities in governance and decision-making. Imagine the debates that could ensue when members disagree on what constitutes valid data. How do we ensure that minority voices are heard without stalling progress? We find ourselves at the intersection of technology and human behavior, pondering the nuances of trust, collaboration, and the shared responsibility that comes with community-driven initiatives. As we continue this exploration, let's keep asking how these innovative frameworks can reshape our interaction with the world around us, and how they might pave the way for a more sustainable future. The question remains, can a DAO truly bridge the gap between the digital and the real, and if so, what new realities might emerge from this intersection? Imagine you're in the midst of a bustling real estate market, where the excitement of buying a new home mingles with the anxiety of navigating legal complexities. Now, picture this. You find your dream house, and instead of the usual drawn-out process of signing papers and waiting for approvals, everything happens seamlessly through a smart contract. Once all the legal documents are verified, the smart contract automatically executes, transferring ownership and funds with a mere click. But how does this work? What magic allows this digital agreement to operate in a world filled with physical human elements? This is where the fascinating interplay of smart contracts and real-world data comes into play. In this scenario, the key players are oracles, external agents that feed real-time information into the blockchain. Think of oracles as bridges between the digital realm of smart contracts and the unpredictable nature of reality. In our real estate example, an oracle could verify the legal status of the property and ensure that all documentation is in order before the smart contract triggers the transfer of ownership. This means that instead of relying solely on human intermediaries, who might be prone to errors or delays, you have a system that acts autonomously, executing transactions based on verified conditions. It's a game changer, providing not just efficiency, but also transparency. But let's expand our understanding beyond just real estate. Consider a farmer who has taken out an insurance policy that relies on weather conditions. If the rainfall drops below a certain threshold, the smart contract is set to automatically release funds to the farmer. The oracle here would monitor weather data in real time, ensuring that once the conditions are met, the payout happens without any manual intervention. This not only protects the farmer's livelihood, but also instills confidence in insurance systems that can often be opaque and cumbersome. As we explore these integrations, we must ask ourselves, what happens when these systems work seamlessly? The implications are profound. We can envision a world where transactions are not only swift, but also inherently fair, removing the potential for disputes that arise from human error or miscommunication. However, this leads us to consider the flip side. What if the data fed into these smart contracts is incorrect? If an oracle misrepresents the legal status of a property or inaccurately reports weather conditions, the consequences could be dire. Trust in the system becomes paramount. Who is accountable when things go wrong? The beauty of using DAOs in conjunction with smart contracts lies in their ability to collectively validate data, creating a decentralized form of governance that enhances the reliability of the inputs. Imagine a community where local stakeholders come together, ensuring that oracles provide accurate information. This forms a safety net that can catch errors before they escalate into serious issues. Furthermore, as we think about the integration of smart contracts with real-world data, we can't ignore the cultural shift this represents. We're moving towards a society that embraces technology not as a replacement for human oversight, but as a tool that can enhance our capabilities. The potential is vast, but it raises questions about our readiness to embrace this change. Are we prepared to trust a system that operates on code rather than human judgment? What safeguards need to be in place to protect individuals, especially in high-stakes transactions like real estate or insurance? As we reflect on these scenarios, we begin to see not just the promise of smart contracts, but also the responsibilities that come alongside their implementation. In this evolving landscape, the challenge remains: how do we ensure that the integration of digital agreements with the complexities of our world is not only successful, but also equitable? The strange consequence is that while we are paving the way for innovation, we must remain vigilant about the ethical considerations and potential pitfalls that accompany these advancements. With every new application, we inch closer to a future where the synergy between our digital and physical realities can transform how we interact with the world around us. What happens when a decentralized autonomous organization, or DAO, makes a decision that impacts the livelihood of individuals? Picture this. A community-driven DAO is tasked with determining the allocation of funds for local housing projects, a decision that could mean the difference between stable homes and homelessness for several families. Each vote from the DAO members is a digital stroke of the pen, yet the consequences ripple through the fabric of the community. Who bears the responsibility when the outcome is less than favorable? This question looms large over the future of smart contracts and decentralized governance, pushing us to confront the ethical considerations that come with such power. As we look ahead, we must grapple with the implications of integrating real-world data into these systems. One of the foremost challenges is the uncertainty surrounding the scalability of these integrations. While the promise of a DAO to facilitate collective decision-making is enticing, how do we ensure that it can handle complex real-world scenarios that require nuance and adaptability? For instance, consider the intricacies involved in verifying data related to environmental sustainability. A DAO might vote to initiate a project based on data that could be incomplete or biased. If the project fails, who is accountable? The members of the DAO, the data providers, or perhaps the very technology that enabled this decision-making? As these technologies evolve, we must also contemplate the potential legal implications. Can a DAO be held liable for decisions that lead to significant societal impacts? The rigid framework of smart contracts, while excellent for executing predefined rules, raises questions about accountability. Traditional legal systems are built around human actors who can be held responsible. Yet in a decentralized environment where anonymity and pseudonymity are common, this principle becomes murky. The strange consequence is a legal landscape struggling to keep pace with technological innovation, leaving individuals vulnerable to decisions made by a faceless collective. This leads us to the ethical considerations that arise when decentralized governance affects real-world outcomes. Imagine a scenario where a DAO decides to fund a public health initiative based on data that suggests a rising outbreak of disease. If that data is flawed, the consequences could be dire. Individuals may suffer, and yet the DAO may escape accountability through the very nature of its decentralized structure. This raises a critical question: can we trust a system that lacks a clear chain of responsibility? As we ponder these scenarios, it becomes evident that the integration of real-world data into smart contracts and DAOs is fraught with challenges. The tension between the digital rigidity of smart contracts and the fluidity of human experience highlights the importance of ethical frameworks that can guide these technologies. What if we could implement measures that ensure greater accountability and transparency within DAOs? Could we develop protocols that allow for a more nuanced understanding of the data being used? The future of smart contracts and DAOs hinges on our ability to address these questions, ensuring that as we innovate, we do not lose sight of the human lives entwined within the web of code. As we continue to explore this landscape, let's remain mindful of the delicate balance between technological advancement and ethical responsibility, for the choices we make today will shape the realities of tomorrow.